Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're looking at Palantir,
Palantir.
the data analytics company that just never seems to stay out of the headlines.
It's true.
Um, they just announced that they are moving from the New York Stock Exchange over to the NASDAQ.
Big move.
And the stock PLTR surged almost 10% on the news.
Wow.
So we've got a great article here from MarketBeat dated November 18th, 2024 to help us unpack this.
Right.
So is this just a publicity stunt or is there something bigger going on here? And what does
Yeah.
it mean for you, especially if you're thinking about investing in Palantir?
Yeah, it's definitely a head scratcher at first, right?
Yeah.
Companies switching exchanges, you don't really hear about that often, and it doesn't usually cause this much buzz.
Right.
But this move seems like it's about more than just a change of scenery.
Oh,
It's about Palantir kind of positioning themselves, in the heart of the tech world, right next to giants like Apple and Microsoft on the NASDAQ.
Okay. I'm intrigued. So the article mentions that this move makes them eligible for the NASDAQ 100 index.
Right.
I'm guessing that's a big deal, but break it down for me. What does that actually mean for the stock?
Sure. So think of the NASDAQ 100 as like the all-star team
Okay.
of tech companies, right? And any ETF that tracks the NASDAQ 100, like the really popular Invesco QQQ Trust,
Yeah.
is basically obligated to add Palantir to their holdings.
Oh, wow.
So it's like all of a sudden you've got this huge guaranteed buyer for your stock.
So is it kind of like what happened when Palantir joined the S&P 500
Yeah.
earlier this year?
Yeah.
I feel like the stock jumped then, too.
Exactly. Yeah, it did. And now whether history repeats itself, I mean,
Right.
that's anyone's guess.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a factor to consider.
For sure.
Especially when you look at the broader context, we're in this like Wild West moment with AI right now where
Yeah.
everyone and their brother is throwing money at it.
It seems like it.
But there's also this growing sense of, is this all just hype?
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm getting some serious .com bubble vibes.
Yeah.
Back then, everyone was talking about the internet, but not every company actually made it.
Right. And that's the big question looming over Palantir.
Yeah.
And frankly, the whole AI sector, right? Can they actually deliver on the promises, or is this just another bubble waiting to burst?
Okay, so how does Palantir fit into all of this?
Yeah.
They keep talking about their ontology,
Right.
which sounds very complex, and I'm guessing that's part of their AI strategy.
Yeah.
Can you explain that in a way that even I can understand?
I'll try. So think of it this way. Companies are drowning in data these days,
Yeah.
but they're struggling to turn that data into anything useful.
Okay.
Palantir's ontology is kind of like a life raft.
Okay.
It's a framework that helps companies organize and understand their data so they can actually start to get insights from it.
So they're not just selling another AI model.
Right.
They're selling a way to make AI actually work for businesses.
Exactly. And that's a crucial difference.
Okay.
They're not trying to build like the next ChatGPT or anything like that. They're focused on making any AI model more effective. So they're kind of like the Switzerland of the AI world,
Okay.
neutral and adaptable.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be honest. Palantir's stock price is, well, let's just say it's not cheap.
No, it's not.
The article mentions some pretty alarming stats about the market being overvalued in general,
Yeah,
and Palantir's valuation seems even more extreme.
it is.
A trailing PE of 329x.
Yeah.
That's a lot of faith in future earnings.
It is a lot of it. It's like paying a huge premium for a house because you're betting it's going to be worth a fortune someday.
Right.
There's a lot of risk involved. And a market correction, could send that stock tumbling.
So are we looking at a potential bubble with Palantir? Is this whole AI craze going to end badly?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball, but honestly, no one knows for sure.
Yeah.
On one hand, Palantir has been defying expectations and delivering real value to their clients. They're winning contracts left and right, both in government and the commercial sector.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, their valuation is sky high. And the market, as we've discussed, is showing some signs of being overheated.
Yeah.
So it's a classic high-risk, high-reward scenario.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the market risks and Palantir's, sky-high valuation.
Right.
But I'm still kind of curious about this ontology thing.
Yeah,
It seems like that's really at the core of what makes them different.
it is.
Can you give me like a real-world example of how this actually works for their clients?
Absolutely. Imagine you're a big bank, right?
Okay.
You've got tons of data about your customers.
Yeah.
Transactions, loans, credit scores, you name it.
Uh-huh.
But it's all scattered across different systems and you have no way to connect the dots.
So it's like having a million puzzle pieces, but no picture to guide you.
Exactly. That's where Palantir's ontology comes in. It's like the picture on the puzzle box. It helps the bank organize all that data and see the relationships between, different pieces of information. And suddenly they can start to identify patterns,
Oh.
like which customers are most likely to default on a loan or become victims of fraud.
So they're not just collecting data, they're actually using it to make smarter decisions.
Precisely. And that translates into real value for the bank.
Yep.
Reduced losses, better customer service,
Mm-hmm.
even the ability to develop new products and services.
That makes sense. And the article mentioned that Palantir is LLM agnostic.
Right.
What does that even mean?
Okay, so
But we're talking about llama farms now?
No, llama farms.
Yeah, okay.
LLMs, or large language models, are like the brains behind AI tools like ChatGPT.
Okay.
They're trained on massive amounts of data, and
Yeah.
they can, generate text, translate languages, you name it.
So is Palantir building its own ChatGPT competitor?
Nope. And that's actually a brilliant move on their part.
Okay.
By being LLM agnostic, it means they can integrate with any leading LLM on the market.
So if a company already has a favorite AI tool, Palantir can still work with them.
Exactly. They're not trying to lock clients into a specific AI model.
Got it.
They're providing the platform and the tools to leverage the best LLMs available,
Okay.
which means their clients always have access to cutting-edge AI capabilities.
That's a pretty smart strategy.
Yeah.
So we've got the data, we've got the ontology to make sense of it, and we can plug in the best AI tools out there.
Right.
What kinds of real-world problems can Palantir actually solve with this?
The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing. I mean, for example, a government agency could use Palantir to track the spread of a disease,
Okay.
identify potential outbreaks, and allocate resources more effectively.
So it's like a superpowered tool for public health.
Exactly, but it goes way beyond that.
Wow.
I mean, Palantir is being used to fight human trafficking, optimize supply chains, even prevent terrorist attacks.
Oh, wow.
It's really incredible, the range of problems they're tackling.
That's pretty impressive. But let's get back to the big question. Is Palantir worth the hype? We've talked about their high valuation.
Yeah.
But is the market truly recognizing their potential, or are we just looking at another bubble about to burst?
It's the million-dollar question, right? And there's no easy answer. I mean, there are certainly valid concerns about their valuation.
Yeah.
You also can't ignore the fact that they're delivering real value to their clients, and they're operating in a massive and growing market.
So it sounds like Palantir is a company with a lot of potential, but also a lot of risk.
For sure.
I'm starting to understand why investors are so divided on this one.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to do your own research and understand your own risk tolerance before making any investment decisions.
All right, so for our listeners who are thinking about investing in Palantir, what are some key things they should keep in mind? What kind of strategies could they consider? All right, so we've established that Palantir is a pretty fascinating company operating in this, high-stakes, high-reward world.
It is.
But their stock is definitely not for the faint of heart.
No, it's definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have a plan, and understand the risks involved before you jump in.
Okay, so let's talk strategy.
Okay.
What are some things our listeners should consider if they're thinking about investing in Palantir?
Well, first off, you got to acknowledge the competition.
Yeah.
We're talking about a space with some serious heavy hitters here.
Right.
I mean, you've got Microsoft, Amazon, Google.
Yeah, the big guys.
All pouring billions of dollars into AI.
Right.
And then there are always those, nimble startups kind of lurking in the shadows, ready to disrupt the game.
Right. It's like a David and Goliath situation.
Right.
But with a lot more algorithms and data involved.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you've got the regulatory landscape to consider.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, governments around the world are still trying to figure out how to regulate AI.
Right.
And any new laws or restrictions could have a big impact on Palantir's business, especially given their work with, all the sensitive data.
And of course, there's that elephant in the room.
It's
The valuation.
right.
Even if Palantir does live up to the hype, are they really worth that much?
It's a good question.
What if the market cools down on AI or they miss an earnings target or something?
All valid concerns.
Yeah.
Investing in Palantir is definitely not for the risk averse.
Right.
But on the flip side, if they can continue to execute their strategy and deliver on their promises, the potential upside is enormous.
It does seem that way.
They're solving real-world problems for some of the biggest organizations in the world, and that's a powerful value proposition.
For sure. Okay, so for our listeners who are intrigued by Palantir, but also a little intimidated by the risks,
Right.
what are some practical steps they can take?
Well, if you're new to investing or you just want to kind of dip your toes in the water without going all in, dollar cost averaging is always a good strategy.
Okay, so you're basically setting up like a recurring payment for your future self.
Exactly. It helps to smooth out the volatility and it prevents you from making, emotional decisions based on short-term market swings.
And for those who are maybe a bit more experienced,
Yeah.
the article mentioned covered call options.
Right.
So this sounds a little complicated.
It is a more advanced strategy, but essentially it involves selling someone else the right to buy your Palantir shares at a certain price. So if the stock goes up, you make a profit, but if it goes down, you're protected from some of the losses.
So it's kind of like buying insurance on your investment.
In a way, yeah, but it's important to remember that all investing involves risk.
Right.
And there are no guarantees.
Okay, so to sum it all up, Palantir is a company at the forefront of the AI revolution. They're solving real-world problems, but they're also facing, fierce competition and operating in a really volatile market.
Definitely.
So whether or not to invest in them is a decision that each individual really needs to make based on their own research,
Yes.
risk tolerance, and their investment goals.
Absolutely. The information we've discussed today is just a starting point. Do your own due diligence, read different perspectives, and most importantly, never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into Palantir.
Palantir.
It's definitely a complex story with no easy answers,
It is.
but hopefully we've given you some food for thought
Right.
and some tools to help you make your own informed decisions.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of business and technology.
Sounds good. And for